Hello friends, I am the anti-terrorist. I'd like to start this particular broadcast by dealing with an email I had recently from someone who suggested that the New World Order is a mere fiction, doesn't exist. I'm wasting my time and my head is swimming with silly ideas that I should forget about. So allow me to just show you this little montage of our current and past leaders talking about it.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
Is there a plan for a new world order, a one world government, and how do we stop it?
Well, I think even our first President Bush said that the New World Order was in tune, and that's what they were working for. The UN is part of that government. They're working right now very significantly for a North American Union. That's why there's a lot of people in Washington that don't care too much about our borders.
So there I think you see is conclusive proof that there is a new world order coming into play. Our current leader, Gordon Brown, talking about it there quite eloquently in his last big speech. What exactly is it though? I hear lots of conversations about it and lots of ethereal and esoteric ideas applied to it. And so what I want to address in this particular broadcast is the conversation about the New World Order, in which we try to enroll our friends in the idea of it, and we try to prove conclusively that it exists, and we try to warn people about what it actually entails. It's my intention with these broadcasts to distill the argument and present you with the facts, with evidence to back up what I say, so that you can go out there and have the conversations confident in the knowledge that you're talking the truth and you're speaking of things that you can prove. I'm going to do what you should be doing. Avoid statements that close minds and always speak in real terms. We have Satanism, religion, symbolism, lizards, alien races. All of these things may well be part of the big picture, but they only serve to dilute and make your case seem implausible. We need to distill and crystallize the argument. At some point in the future, tangible evidence might come to light that will prove these esoteric arguments beyond all doubt. But until then, they only serve to cloud the issue and detract from the facts. They're a distraction from the very real issues that face us now, issues that we can impact. It's by referring to these things, these esoteric, ethereal ideas, that you can't prove to make your case. You're undermining your own credibility, and you're undermining the credibility of the resistance movement, the movement that wants to stop the New World Order. I've heard David Icke say that believing is seeing. Now, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and the stand he's taking. His political history and symbolism research is second to none. However, and I say it again, it may or may not be the case, but the necessary belief in lizards controlling the planet takes such a profound leap of faith that the sheeple will resist it with every fiber of their being, and choose instead to ignore the rest of your credible information in favor of the more palatable account of events as presented by the corporate and controlled media. So you will hear me talk about religion and its use as a psychological tool for control and manipulation, but you won't hear me speak of biblical prophecy. I'll be talking about skull and bones and Bohemian Grove, but not about satanic human sacrifice. I can't prove any of it, and I've found no conclusive, unequivocal proof online. If you have proof, send me the link to the evidence. I'm always open to learning new facts. So what is the best way to inform or provoke interest without sounding like a conspiracy theorist? Avoid making statements unless they're provable. Instead, ask questions that will inspire them to look for the answers themselves. Try to avoid giving them the answers, unless you can prove them and they're asked for. Statements tend to close a conversation, whereas questions open it. They open the debate. They intrigue people to look for the answers. You have to keep in mind when having these conversations. When the little man in the back of your head says, I shouldn't be talking about this, it's not polite, it's inappropriate to start this conversation. You have to remember we're so conditioned to conform to certain things, even in everyday conversation. Think about it. In polite society, what are the 3 things it's impolite or inappropriate to discuss at the dinner table? Politics, religion, taxes. But why is it impolite to discuss these things? Because it causes arguments, or because it creates a bad atmosphere? Or because they don't want us to discuss it, because the debate might give us insight? Forget about debrets and acceptable conversational etiquette. This message is far too important to be hampered by polite society or political correctness. Be the instigator. Be the one that brings these subjects up. Do not allow your pride to get in the way of starting the conversation that could make a difference. Try not to let fear get in the way of the conversation either. Don't let fear stop you from spreading the message, from saying, no, I will not stand for that any longer. I think Michael Badnarik puts it best here.
The first thing that Hitler did was start to write newspaper articles. Everything that was going wrong was the Jews' fault. They're the ones that caused all these problems. Did the Jews write their own newspaper articles and go, I disagree? Well, not that I can think of. I've never read any newspaper articles that, contradicted any of that. So then the Jews had to wear the Star of David so that we can tell who you are. Did they say, no, that's a violation of my privacy. I don't have to tell you whether, I'm Jewish or not. No, the Jews decided, well, it's a religious symbol. We love God. We should be proud to wear the Star of David. Eventually, the Germans came in and they broke all of the windows in all of the Jewish businesses in one weekend. Saturday night was known as Kristallnacht, which is German for Night of Glass. You couldn't walk up and down the sidewalks because they were filled with glass. Did the Jews rise up and say, now, damn it, you're violating my property, you shouldn't do that? No. Gosh, we don't want to make the Germans any madder than they already are. We want to just kind of go along to get along. Don't piss them off. They've got guns. Eventually, the Germans are loading them up into cattle trailers on the train. Where do you think you're going, on vacation? Well, now you're cold and naked and they're walking you into the ovens where you're going to go to mass execution. Is it time now to raise your hand and say, I tend to disagree with all of this? Bang! You're dead. It's too late to complain. You should have complained at the beginning, when you at least had a chance. How bad do things have to get before you do something? Do they have to take away all your property? Do they have to license every activity that you want to engage in? Do they have to be throwing you on cattle cars before you start to say, now wait a minute, I don't think this is a good idea? How long is it going to be before you finally resist and say, no, I will not comply? Period. Ask yourself now, because sooner or later you're going to come to that line, and when they cross it, what are you going to say? Well, okay, cross this line. Okay, now cross that line. Okay, now cross this line. And pretty soon you're in a corner. Sooner or later, you've got to draw a line and stand your ground, whether anybody else does or not. That is what liberty is all about.
And a final word about spreading the message on Google Video or YouTube. Those of you who are putting videos out there, compilations of news broadcasts or whatever it might be, please try to avoid using music to dramatize or enhance the video. All too often I see videos with excellent content that's undermined by music that's inappropriate or distracting. This information is dramatic enough. You don't have to underscore it. Also, if you're using music that is copywritten, you only give Google the excuse they need to remove your content. There are enough obstacles in our way without having to deal with censorship disguised as copyright enforcement. Don't give them that reason to pull your content. The message is more important than entertainment. The people who are looking for this information do not need to be entertained. They need to be given the facts without the hype. Thanks for listening.